Welcome back to another episode of The Hollow Net. Today we're going to be talking about learning from failure. Uh, a couple videos back, I mentioned that I've been making a Gary's Mod server for quite some time now with a buddy of mine and a nice team. And recently in January we launched, and it survived up until this point. And we've learned a lot from that time period, and we made a lot of mistakes during that time period. Obviously, it was a Star Wars server. It took place just a couple weeks after Order 66. Then we ran into some issues as far as factions were concerned. If you're familiar with Gary's Mod or familiar with games in general, I'm sure you know what factions are. We had the Empire was the main bad guy, like the big bad Galactic Empire, the main policing force, and they controlled Tatooine and Corellia. And then there were 3 rebel cells, kind of like the Rebel Alliance hasn't formed yet. It's still so early on. There is no alliance. There's just various groups fighting for, whatever morals, whether it be terroristic or more like militia. And off the bat, we ran into some issues as far as player population was concerned for some of the rebel groups. Now, the reason for that is just plain and simple. Whether it be in Gary's Mod or whether it be in Star Wars as a whole, when you're playing a video game, you like to look cool, and the rebels just don't look as cool as a stormtrooper, for instance. Even though we had like the Imperial Army were the grunts, and then you had to work your way up to stormtrooper, less players on average wanted to join a rebel group, especially because it wasn't the Rebel Alliance. It was, we had the Dogs of War, which were like, think of them like Middle Eastern jihadi terrorist types that like behead a guy on live television, which we had that in the server. You like stream shit, have an audience. You had the Farron Union, which were like, we're the good guys, and they were the most like the rebels. They were flying around like the ugly ships, like the X-TIEs and TIE wings, the type you see like cobbled together. Just look up like Star Wars ugly. They're pretty neat. And they were like a band of scrappers who had it with the Empire and decided to strike it off on their own. And then you had the Binary Ascendancy, which took inspiration from like IG-88 in some of the expanded universe. He was trying to make like a robot revolution and take over all of the living organisms, all organic creatures. Think like HK-47 and stuff. Their whole thing was they were CIS holdouts, except they weren't Confederacy people. They were more like just strictly droids and cultists worshiping droids trying to take over anything living. And they were our 3 rebel groups. Cool ideas, awesome ideas. And even the armor was kind of neat, but rebels in video games don't have that draw. They don't have that not too many people join a server and their first thought is, I want to join a rebel cell that some dude just made up. So we ran into issues with that as far as player population was concerned. You'd have like a big empire and then maybe one rebel cell at a time that was like big enough to pose a threat or do raids or do wars or kidnap people. So that was a big issue because without an opposition to the empire, things get very boring and kind of slow. And things even get more boring whenever there's only one opposition, not 3. Now, obviously, we had the Hutt Cartel. They were doing all right, but they were less combatants and more criminals, drug dealing, getting slaves, holding lavish parties, playing music, holding fights and stuff. And then in the beginning, you had 2 merchant groups, Blast Tech and Rathana Heavy Engineering. Rathana was like vehicles and armors, and then Blast Tech was like weapons and gadgets. So they had like their own little sex of the market. And then there was also a criminal group called the Drock Gang, and then a Mandalorian group. But essentially what I'm saying here is our first issue was player distribution was wrong. It was just flat out wrong. And that's partially on us because we didn't think about how the average chud would react to the factions. Like, we put our heart and soul and like our minds into making these cool, unique things. But the fact of the matter is, if you're a normal guy, you're not wanting to join a cool like OC, like fictional OC. You want to join something with some ass behind it. And whenever your factions are like Rathana, heavy engineering, and blast tech, like no, like surface level Star Wars fan knows what the hell those guys are. Um, no shame to those people, but it's just a fact. And even less people know about something you just made up. And there's just not, unless you're on the server and not a Star Wars fan, you're not very likely to choose any of the lesser factions. You're like, I want to be a Hut member and be a bounty hunter, or I just want to be a bounty hunter on my own, or I want to start my own business. Which led to just the Empire not being able to do all that much, and led to there not being all that cool of like role play dynamics going on in that sector of the galaxy, if you will. So then we backpedaled pretty hard. Let me go back a few steps. After all that happened, 3 of the factions, so we were at, what was that? All those factions before, it's less than 10, I think. Then 3 of them combined into one faction, which was a cool idea. The Drop Gang, the like low-down thugs I was telling you about, Rathana and Blast Tech all worked out like some type of contract where they all merged together and made one like militaristic monopoly corporation. And obviously we gave them the opportunity to be like, you can be the Trade Federation or you can be the Corporate Sector Authority. We obviously pushed that one a little bit harder. My EU boys know about them. Thank God they chose the Corporate Sector Authority. So they were like, they were selling all this stuff. They were hyper-capitalistic. And then they also had a military, made them an actual like viable military player in the server, that was cool. That was cool. But immediately for whatever, there was a few, if you play gmod, I'm sure you know, there was some fucking Gary's Mod drama going on where people didn't like the leader of that group because for whatever reason. So every faction on the server ganged up on them and ruined their fun, so they all left. And then balance was off. We had to like do another pass on the balancing of weapons. A few things fell through the cracks. Just so much stuff went wrong. But then we backpedaled and we thought, okay, we need to fix this rebel thing, this rebel conundrum ASAP. So we went down for a week and we changed the time period from post-Order 66 to post-Endor. Now, some of you might already catch my drift on where I'm going. So we flipped it to where instead of the Empire being the big main faction, like the biggest guys on the block, we changed that to the New Republic, were the biggest guys on the block and kind of the most powerful, biggest faction. They get all the bells, the whistles, the vehicles, ground and space, all that. Cool armors. We even made Spec Force Marine armor, which that's sick. It came out really good. And we switched it to where instead there was 3 rebel cells, there were now 3 Imperial warlords. And like I was saying earlier, more people are drawn to if you look cool. So if you go from 3 lame rebels, as cool as they were, to now being 3 independent Imperial factions, then everyone's like, holy shit, I don't know who to choose. I want to join every faction, which is a way better issue to have. Sadly, it was too little too late at that point. A lot of people lost interest just because with a game mode such as this, it's like the more players you have, the more fun it is, which that goes for every server. But this one especially. So we substituted the rebel cells out for the Crimson Empire led by Kyrkanos. Kyrkanos? Yeah. I might be wrong. I might be getting my... Carnor Jax. Yeah, led by Carnor Jax. And they had Royal Guards as their like elite infantry, and they had the Royal Stormtroopers as their basic ground troops. And they were riding around swoop bikes that could like float over obstacles and stuff. It was really cool. Very cool gameplay style that faction had. Very quick, hard hitting. They had flame troopers, very close quarters, sick. Melee weapons. You had the Ariadi Authority, which they were kind of like the Imperial Army. They had army troopers. That was the predominant meat shield of their force. And they had dark troopers and also Navy commandos. And their main gimmick was ground vehicles. So ATSTs, tanks, TIE crawlers, that whole thing. And the final Imperial group that didn't even get to get off the ground because there just wasn't the interest had left at this point. The bird had left the cage. It was going to be the Pentastar alignment, and they were going to be the Stormtrooper, elite infantry, like ranged faction, along with naval superiority, like starfighters, bombers, that whole thing. So very cool armor, very cool lore. Obviously, if you played like Thrawn's Revenge at Empire at War, it's not exactly a 1-to-1 for each faction. And even if you look in lore, like the Crimson Empire wasn't really a thing. So we did all that. We changed a few more things around, but it was just just fumble after fumble. And what we've learned through this failure is just next time we launch and have like a real push and hype around it, start off on the post-Empire. That's just a cooler time period, and it still has generally the same gameplay mechanics, like not that many Jedi, split up factions, that whole thing. Kind of a cool ebb and flow of like who's allying with who, and every empire's too dense and crazy to just unite. They all, I'm the emperor, no, I'm the emperor, dark greetings, that whole thing. It's just a cooler time period. So next time we launch in like a big way, that'll be where we start. We've thought about adding more planets people can go to, because that's a complaint we've heard. Right now there was Tatooine, Corellia, and Raxus Prime, and then kind of like a sub-planet being a mining asteroid you could go to and refine Durasteel. But people have said loud and clear they want more planets, which is, I think they're silly. I think the players are silly in this one, But so the way Gary's Mod mapping works, if you're not familiar, is you have a map, and then you obviously can make that map however you want in the Hammer editor, which is hell. But everything you put is like counted as a brush stroke on like a canvas. Think of it like that. And everything you add is another brush stroke on that canvas. Eventually that canvas is going to run out. There's only so many brush strokes you can put on a map. So the more planets we have, the less detailed those planets can be, the less intricate they can be, the less good they can look. And we originally had more planets than this time, but we decided to consolidate for the sake of player space and look of the planets. We decided to cut down to what we have now, but people say they liked it better before, so we might revert. Also, I learned this time around, it really clicked with me this time. After all my years, it clicked that Gary's Mod, in its current state, when you're trying to get a server up off the ground, it's a lot like medieval nobility. You have to like make deals with people behind closed doors, like influential players with like gangs that like gangs of cronies they have. It sounds crazy, but it's fucking real, dude. They like one dude will have like 20 or 30 guys that like, they're like, what are we playing today, sir? He's like, we're playing CPGS, and it's crazy. These guys have cronies that like fall around to every server, and you need to make deals with these people, and they know that they have leverage. Because without players in your server, no one joins. The more players you have, the higher up on the list you are. The higher up on the list you are, the more people join. It's a real fucked up vicious cycle. There's no like, this new server just dropped, check this out. It's all just numbers based. So if you're a new server and you don't make deals with these people, you're fucked. Now we had not deals with people, but we had like loose agreements with people. Like, hey, they're like, I'm interested in the server, I'd love to play. And they obviously thought they had me by the balls. They thought they had us all by the balls. And they were, doing bad things. They brought bad apples into the server. And if you ban one of them, then they all get mad at you and they say, why'd you do that? Why'd you do that? And then they all leave. It's a very vicious cycle. And obviously, so what I've learned this time is you either have to make, I feel like a fucking politician. You either have to make deals with these fucking bloodsuckers that have gangs of golems, or you fail. Now, obviously, if you have the patience and the like wherewithal to start a server with nothing, there is a chance you can like one guy joins and he stays, and then a week later another guy joins and he stays. But that's just not sustainable, because by the time you have enough people that people start noticing, it's like everyone you had, it's just weird. Because you can only keep some, like, if you have 10 people on a server, that's fine. For a large scale server like this, that's not nearly as fine, especially with multiple planets. And the likelihood of those guys sticking around until you get more players is slim. Because it's like, what are they going to do? They're just going to keep playing a server with nobody in it? It's a vicious, vicious cycle. And it feels like it's not beatable. Quick little tip for those who are wanting to delve into Gary's Mod, don't do it. Don't. But if you're making a server in, let's say, Star Wars, let's say, I don't know, Half-Life 2, Halo, if you're starting a server in any one of those, I would recommend personally, if you already have a small community of people that will join and are hyped for what you're making and will play, put it in a different category than what you're going for. And what I mean by that is, since I was making a Star Wars server, people usually just put it in the Star Wars RP category in Gary's mod. If you do that, you're underneath fucking like 1,000 servers. That people that scroll and see yours and then join it out of everyone else's, no matter what you do. It just doesn't work very good. But if you put yourself in a separate category, your own category, even if you have 10, 20 people, they'll have to scroll down like one click and then your server will be there. Bam, right on front page. So that's a quick little tip to get more eyes on your project. Obviously, name it something similar to what you're doing. Don't just name it something fucking retarded, unless that's what you're going for. Like, back in the day, there's this one called Liver Failure. No one knows what the fuck Liver Failure is. But it was a great server, and I believe the people who made that made this awesome game called Aneurysm 4. And if it wasn't those guys who made it, it's someone who's inspired off of that. So that's also doable if you're wanting to make some type of like crazy, like very creative stuff. That's also awesome. But yeah. We've learned that you have to make deals with nobles. You have to make sure every faction is awesome. And even the most brain dead person can look at it and say, that's wooey badass. Yeah, that's where my brain stopped. Thank you very much. Sorry I didn't make videos for a little while. I was busy playing Fallout Nuclear Sunset. That game is fucking awesome. Great mod pack, 1,600 mods. More videos coming soon. I've been having a hard time thinking of video ideas because I don't know. I just feel like, like I want to talk about something, and it's like hard. Like, am I supposed to come in here and talk about like cool Star Wars? I'm still reading that book. I'm procrastinating like a piece of shit, but Labyrinth of Evil review coming eventually. This has been the Holonet. Bye!